On February 17, 1947, the Voice of America makes its first Russian-language broadcast into the Soviet Union. The VOA began in 1942, soon after the U.S. entered World War II, as a German-language radio program meant to counter Nazi propaganda. By the time the war ended, the VOA was broadcasting 3,200 programs in 40 languages each week, with the added goals of bolstering Allied morale and spreading American values throughout Europe, Asia, and Africa. After the war, the VOA continued as part of America's Cold War propaganda campaign and was primarily aimed at Europe. In 1947, it directed its first Russian-language broadcast at the Soviet Union with the words, "Hello, this is New York calling." This initial broadcast was rather dry, including a brief summary of current events, an explanation of how the U.S. political system works, and an analysis of a first-generation antihistamine called pyrobenzamine. Later broadcasts focused on news stories, human interest features, and music, with the goal of showing Russians what life was like outside of the communist bloc. It is unknown how many Russians ever heard the broadcasts, but reports indicate many VOA programs were eagerly awaited each night, especially the music segments. Not surprisingly, those music segments were some of the most popular throughout the VOA's run during the Cold War. They created a generation of Germans and Soviets who fell in love with American jazz music. In fact, during the 1948-1949 Berlin airlift, the VOA played a major role in helping the Western Allies win the propaganda war through its news broadcasts, but also through jazz. More than 80 years after its founding, the VOA continues to this day. It is funded by the U.S. Agency for Global Media, with headquarters on Independence Avenue in Washington, D.C. The VOA has an annual budget of $268 million and employs 961 staff members. Naturally, the VOA is not just radio anymore, but also a multimedia broadcaster, including an online platform with a mobile app. The VOA now broadcasts in 49 languages, its most recent being Fulani, which is spoken by about 40 million people in West and Central Africa. The Voice of America is, in fact, the largest U.S. international broadcaster, with a weekly worldwide audience of 362 million people, which has increased significantly from 237 million in 2016. The VOA website states that it, quote, continues to be a beacon of hope for underserved audiences who yearn for information about freedom of expression, civil society, and change, end quote. Here are other events that happened today in history. In 1820, the U.S. Senate passes the Missouri Compromise, an attempt to deal with slavery in the West. In 1863, the International Red Cross is founded in Geneva to bring aid to the world's wounded soldiers. In 1963, six-time NBA champion Michael Jordan, one of basketball's greats, is born in New York City. In 1966, Brian Wilson of the Beach Boys begins recording the band's innovative song, Good Vibrations. In 1972, the Volkswagen Beetle breaks the world car production record held by Ford's iconic Model T. In 1996, world chess champion Garry Kasparov triumphs over Deep Blue, IBM's chess-playing computer. In 2022, WNBA star Brittany Griner is detained in Russia for allegedly possessing cannabis in her luggage. And now, it's time for our Today in History quiz. Pluto, once considered the ninth planet, was discovered at an observatory in which U.S. state? Arizona, California, Colorado, or Oregon? Think you know the answer? Drop your guesses in the comments below. Find out if you're right tomorrow on Today in History.